May I have your attention, please? The podcast World Awakenings, the fast track to enlightenment, is now on the air. May I have your attention, please? The podcast World Awakenings is now on the air.
This is World Awakenings, the fast track to enlightenment with your host, Carl Gruber. World Awakenings is a podcast dedicated to opening your mind, your heart, and your eyes to the fact that the world's population is now, more than ever, awakening to all things metaphysical and spiritual, and just how they play an all-important role in our daily life. So join Carl on this enlightening experience as he interviews metaphysical and spiritual experts to discuss, debate, and delve deeply into the hows and whys of this worldwide awakening.
Shall we begin?
The stress and drama of daily life can many times be hard to deal with on your own, and that's why Excelling My Life gives you the freedom to choose a professional life coach without having to make any special commitments and giving you control of how long you want to spend with your life coach. Go right now to www.excellingmylife.com and find a coach that suits you best. Then click on Call or Chat Now. You'll be automatically connected to your own life coach privately and instantly via chat or call. Find your very own life coach now. No waiting. That's www.excellingmylife.com. It's the quick, easy, and affordable way to connect now to your own life coach. Let excellingmylife.com help ease the stress and strain of daily life. Welcome to yet another awesome episode of the podcast World Awakenings, the fast track to enlightenment. I am your host, Carl Gruber, and I'm guessing you have joined us today because you too, like me, have a deep curiosity as to why now, more than ever, the people of the world are awakening to all things enlightening, spiritual and metaphysical. Now, before we head off to meet today's guest, please take a moment to click the subscribe button to this channel so that you never miss a single episode of the show. So let's hear about our featured guest today. Teza Lord calls herself a spiritual activist, a spirit activist. She is a person who dedicates her life's energies to uplifting the collective consciousness of all humankind, one person at a time. Since childhood, she has had this calling, but it took a lifetime for her to be brave enough, honest enough to call herself a spirit activist. Now, activism begins with a thought. Whatever you direct your thoughts toward, that's the kind of activism you're engaged in. Teza is interested in exploring the magic of life, the spiritual side of human nature that each one of us possesses. As an artist who also writes, Teza focuses her creative pursuits on documenting her own and humankind's spiritual transformation. I love that. She attempts to awaken and sow positive thought seeds and spread them out into the world, and to awaken her own and others' higher consciousness through creating inspiring books, paintings, sculptures, intentions, meditations, and now through the magic of the internet, social media, guided audio files, short chants, and meditative videos. She also has a blog called Lord Flea and a podcast called Z Lord. Teza's vision as a spirit activist is to help build a better, healthier world in which people feel more connected, more fulfilled by being more aware that we truly are pure love in human form. Her motto is, love is the weapon of mass illumination. That is awesome. So welcome, Teza. Welcome to World Awakenings.
Well, thank you, Carl, and welcome to everybody who's listening.
Yeah, it is awesome to have you on the show. You sure, from what I've read in your bio, and we're just now getting to meet each other and chat a little bit, I really want to hear about everything. But before we go into any deep discussions, I'm really curious as to what growing up was like for you. Were there any particular experiences in your life that led you to be so curious about the world around you, or you just came into life being spiritually aware?
Not at all. I was not at all spiritually inclined until I discovered the way on my own. I did not have much guidance. I came from a pretty dysfunctional situation, and that's sad. But it's facilitating people to make transformation when they come from dysfunctional homes, and so I basically did not get the guidance that I needed, and until I just started running away, and I literally started running away at the age of 5. I knew my destiny was not with my birth parents. And we choose our own parents, we metaphysical people say, but some of us choose the wrong parents. It seems like wrong, but yet they push us into arenas that they themselves don't approve of. And so we have to be true rebels. We have to be right from the get-go, like warrior types, to say, I'm not going to follow in your footsteps. So my early years were difficult, very difficult. And I continued having problems. And I have no bones about speaking about, I am a recovering alcoholic and addict. And I've been in recovery for 40 years, which is over half my lifetime. But addiction was really the true teacher of my life that showed me that, okay, I've been to hell. Let's check out heaven. And a lot of recovering people feel that way. We've already been to hell during this very lifetime. So we start experiencing spirit, because addiction is a spiritual disease. And I even had problems when I was a teenager. I was consequently, I went to teach yoga and meditation to girls in prison because, as I told them, I'm just like you. And that made their jaw drop. And that's my first book, In the Eye, like me, myself, and I. Because when you come from a place that you feel not connected to the world, you either succumb to it or you rise above. And I'm one of those people who was fortunate enough, or that was my destiny or my dharma. And I fought hard. And I think I'm truly a miracle, because even my family that talks to me about what my childhood was like, the fact that I am the person I am today with the challenges that I had, it's quite miraculous. It's you just make a decision. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to shoot for the highest.
That's interesting that you say that we choose our parents before we're born. A lot of people have an issue with that, but you're right. Most spiritually aware people understand this, that you say we could choose the wrong parents, but in that case, like you growing up with parents that, you couldn't wait to get away from, a lot of us, we say when we're younger, I don't want to be like my mom or my dad, but yet they're part of your journey. Perhaps before you came into this body, you did choose them so that you could evolve into who you are today.
Absolutely. And that's part of understanding our own basic connection to being a spirit in a human body, because our cultural connection is just as important as our spiritual connection. And I did a self-portrait of myself when I got sober at the age of 36. And it's 3 sides of me. There's the side that actually looked like me in the mirror, which was, kind of beaten up and ready to start over again. And then there was the cultural side, because I knew the heritage of my immigrant grandparents. Everybody in America is an immigrant except the Native Americans. I mean, who was the last one here? We're all immigrants. Right. And then there was the spiritual side. So there's those 3 sides of myself that we all have to be aware of. And the fact that I had a challenging time with my birth parents was okay. In the end, it reconciled me, because I had enough anger and rebellion to leave it. Now, some people wouldn't leave it. They would just say, okay, this is what I was born into. This is the way I was raised. This is what I was fed. And I've heard that so often. I'm saying, I'm sorry, I don't buy it. If you don't really feel comfortable in the situation, whether it's cultural or religious or political, or however the family rears us up, we do have the choice to be our own invention.
And I'm glad you say we do have the choice, because so much of the population of the world has a victim mentality. It's
Mhm.
outside of them. I can't control this. It's your fault. It's not my fault. And yet we have a choice to decide to take control of our own life.
Well, that's the very first step of saying, okay, I'm really tired of this life, the physical life. I think there's something going on here that's really magical, the spiritual life. I want to explore. And when a person says that they choose to explore something new, that is truly the beginning of a spiritual life.
Well, and I'm curious too. You call yourself a spiritual activist. So, what to you is spirituality, and how does activism come into that?
Whoa, wow. Is this like a 10-hour podcast? That's such a big,
Next time.
huge subject. Well, let me start by first saying that at first I called myself a spiritual activist, but I said, that sounds like I'm calling myself spiritual. But that's not what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to say that I'm an activist for spirit. So I changed it. I even had my website changed, my webmaster change it from spiritual activist to spirit activist, because I'm not proclaiming to the world that I'm spiritual, because everybody's spiritual. That's just some people have forgotten, or some people have not yet attuned themselves to the reality that is really going on. They are not sharp enough yet to be awakened to the consciousness that we are talking about on this podcast, because this is about the awakening of humanity's consciousness, as a species, not just you, Carl, not just me, Teza, not just the wonderful guests you have. It's not just a few elite people. Everybody in humanity is becoming awakened. It's happening as we speak. So when I say that I'm an activist for spirit, I mean that encompasses the environment, because I truly think environmentalism today is modern spirituality. Anybody who's awakened knows that we are awakening because the planet has awakened us. The planet is screaming. Mother Earth, Mother Gaia is saying, hey, children, come and help me. I've given you wonderful abundance on this beautiful garden planet for eons. Now, wake up before you're gone, because I'm going to be okay. Mother Earth is going to be okay. She will evolve. But she's saying, you guys better wake up, because, something's knocking at your door called toxicity. And, the quality of the air and the ozone layer, just everything is changing abruptly. And it's not too late if we do wake up now. The scientists have proven that we can change the course of what the doom and gloomers are saying. And I don't think that we have to put a colony out in Mars. I think that we just need to awaken one person at a time, and it spreads just like the ripple in the pond. It spreads like the way yoga became such a popular thing when a few celebrities announced to the world that they were into yoga. All it'll take is a few celebrities, besides, of course, Shirley MacLaine, who was the first brave one to come out like back in the 70s, claiming to the world that she was spiritual, that she had these connections with something more than just what we see before us. All it will take is a few major stars to say, oh yeah, I'm spiritual. And it'll become a fad. You watch. It's already happening.
I'm really glad that you cleared up there the difference between, as you said, being a spirit activist as opposed to spiritual, because I actually, in the intro of you, I actually said spiritual at first, but I corrected it because I knew that.
Yeah. Well, it's tricky. Words are energy. I'm a lifelong yogi, and it's an energy of itself. The way words are formed, the letters of words become words themselves. And of course, words line up like little pearls on a necklace to become sentences, and there are thoughts. And the spirit, really, the true spirit that we embrace when we say we are spirit, can't really be defined. It's the word ineffable means it can't be defined with words, but we can touch it. We can touch it when we get quiet. We can touch it when we stop the racka-racka-roo of this busy mind chattering. We can connect with spirit when we go within instead of going without and feeding our addictions, being constantly busy, having to constantly accomplish things, and just be still and maybe listen to the birds or the clouds. And then words are not needed to express what spirit really is. But of course, people need words. So they have scripture and they have great teachers speaking. And today they have an awful lot of, like one of my friends calls it fast food spirituality, where you can just sign up for a course and in 30 days you can become a certified spirit coach, Mm-hmm. But that's okay, because what it shows is that the fad is starting. The popularity of being spiritual has already happened, and the tipping point has already been reached. We are already in the spiritualization of humanity.
There is a ever-growing segment of the population of the world that is classified as what they call SBNR, spiritual but not religious.
Oh yeah, SBNRs, huh? That's a new one for me. Yeah. But I've heard that phrase.
Oh, it's been and it's definitely it actually appeals quite a bit to millennials and younger people, simply because they have lost complete faith in organized religion,
Right. Mm-hmm.
With good reason. I mean, there's so much.
As have I. But I'm married to a very, very dedicated Christian worshiper, and together we honor. For 30 years, we have shared our beautiful life, and he is as dedicated to traditional, not evangelical Christianity, but mystical Christianity. Mm-hmm. Mystical by the fact that he defines God as being undefinable. God is so big, you can't just say, oh, it's this religion. I mean, he's truly a mystical Christian. And I am an Eastern mystical person in the yogic tradition. And so we have a compatibility because we love spirit. It doesn't matter what name you give it, or he, she, or whatever. But I know the religious thing, I too think that it's just a personal choice. It's like the clothes you wear, or today your gender. I mean, like, hello, just decide for yourself. Mm-hmm. It's a very personal thing.
Well, I'm going to go back again to a little bit ago. You were talking about how, well, that's the theme, the mission of this show. Why now more than ever is the population of the world awakening to all things enlightening, spiritual, metaphysical. But yet here we find ourselves in the midst of a global pandemic where is nothing but fear. Everything is based on fear. I'm afraid of you. I'm afraid of that. And you have to wear all kinds of things over your body and all that. It's all based on fear. But yet on the opposite end of the spectrum, there's a huge section of awakening. Well, how do we deal with this dichotomy?
Oh, I think it's a wonderful sequence of events. And for me, I'm going to go out on a limb. I mean, that was the name of Shirley MacLaine's book back in the 70s. I don't know why Shirley MacLaine is coming into it. Hello, Shirley, are you listening? She must be tuning in. She's about 99 or something now. But I witnessed a fleet of UFOs when I was a very young person. I'm just going to I have become public about it because it's in the news and people are talking about it more. And I'm not such a freak anymore if I share it. And it's been proven to me by other people who saw the same thing I did. I was on the island of Nantucket, and somebody I met later on in my life saw the same thing on the shore of Providence, Rhode Island. So when you see something like that, when you know that we are not alone, that we are being watched and we are being more or less monitored, that we don't muck it up, that we don't change the balance of this multiverse, because that's, I believe, what this mission was that I witnessed with my two friends while we were surf casting on the shores of Nantucket, and it stayed visible all night.
Wow.
There was a mothership pulsating outside of the atmosphere. You could just see the lights. And then there were two lieutenant ships, like on either side vertically. And then all along the horizon on the eastern seaboard of the United States were reconnaissance ships going back and forth. And this went on all night. So for me, my life changed right then and there. That was like 1967 or 8. And life changes when you see something like that. Now, the pandemic, that's also another life changer. A lot of people freak out because they can't go to concerts, they can't go on dates, they can't go to bars and get laid, they can't, this, they can't do that, they can't do a restaurant. What are they going to do? They got to like change. And God forbid they got to like stay in their apartments. And some of them, they don't know how to cook. So it was a major freak out. And for me, it was okay. I mean, I have a lot of friends who suffered, but my husband and I had gone on a 6-month car and tent camping trip just before the pandemic. And we were so used to being isolated and cooking on a camp stove and just being with the stars and, our tent. So we did come home for the pandemic. And that's when our podcast changed, our podcast, Z Lord, as you mentioned. We started podcasting about our camping trip, which we went all over Canada and went out to the Badlands of America and ended up like in the Big Bend of Texas, with all awesome places off the grid mostly. And we decided to continue the podcast and explore the inner journey. Now, some people don't get like inner journey. What does that mean? Well, that's the spiritual connection that we're talking about and the awakening that a lot of people have had because of the pandemic, because they were forced to. What else are you going to do? You can't just like binge Netflix series. You'll go crazy. So a lot of people experimented and they took online spiritual courses or online yoga courses or online meditation courses. And all throughout the world, the spiritual community was humming and cooking, and every opportunity was so available of doing a lot of chanting. I'm a big yogic chanter, and big people like Krishna Das and Wa and people were having chanting sessions for free on Facebook or their own site. So there were multiple opportunities for anybody who like typed in to their Google, like how to be spiritual. I mean, there it is. So a lot of people are wondering, how do I do it? How do I become more awakened? And this day and age, there are so many tools and so many people who have different flavors of approaching their spirituality. And I myself don't like to discuss like who my teachers have been, because I think everybody should find their own teachers. It really is a matter of, where is your life leading you? Who are you going to connect with? Who are you going to run into? Because you can't just go from person to person to person to person to person looking for the best for the rest of your life. Sooner or later, you decide you're going to dig deep with who you have.
Well, I agree with you in that it's interesting because with the pandemic and all the fear, the opposite has happened. The light workers of the world have literally stepped up because they knew they had to. That we knew we had to. I have light worker friends around the globe. With the internet, I can connect with them instantaneously. Yeah. And we've all realized that now is the time there is an evolution happening in humanity, and we have to step it up. And with that, I do want to ask you, I'm just curious. I mean, because you're so aligned with spirit. Do you have any, have you developed any clairvoyant or channeling abilities? I think you read you fly in your dreams. Is that astral traveling?
I'm very involved in the metaphysical world, and my husband and I laugh. He was raised in the Edgar Cayce tradition.
Oh, yeah.
And if you know anything about Edgar Cayce, everybody's a channeler. Everybody has the Akashic records at their beck and call. And we just laugh that Carter, my husband's name is Carter, and we say, we're the reincarnated plumber and exterminator from Atlantis, because it just doesn't matter to us. Like past life regression, channeling, hey, whatever blows your skirt up. if somebody needs to do that, then you need to do it. But
Mhm.
what we do is we go to source, and like anybody can be a channeler, anybody can be clairvoyant. I have been doing that since I was a kid. The best way that I learned was because I'm a speed typist. I can ask a question to my source, and I get on my keyboard, and I'm literally like this, and my fingers are faster than my thinking. And I don't, it's like what they call it, automatic writing for if you're using a pen. But when you're at your keyboard, it's way faster than automatic writing, and like you're just like that. And so to channel is something that everybody can do. And if anybody says it's only for special people, that's BS. That's my experience, and it's not just my opinion. Because in the ARE, which is the Edgar Cayce tradition, ARE stands for the Association of Research and Enlightenment. People train to become mystics and clairvoyants and to approach the Akashic record. So if anybody wants to hone their talents, just go to the ARE and you can learn too. Just take a couple of courses and you'll find out that it's all within us.
I agree with you that everybody has somewhere latent within them the ability to do that. I actually met a lady a couple of weeks ago who just 30 years ago, she actually took a channeling course. It took her 30 years, and now she's a qualified conscious trance channel. And she developed it, just like you said, from that latent ability.
Yeah, I think everybody has that latent ability. Like my first true calling is to be an artist. And I've had so many people who I've taught saying, oh, I haven't got an artistic bone in my body. Well, that's not true. Everybody has the creative force within them. And actually, talking about the chakras, we talked about chakras before we started broadcasting, but the second chakra, which is right after staying alive, the first chakra is all about like our consciousness is to stay alive. The second chakra is about the creative force, but it's also the seat of the spiritual energy. And those two awaken immediately after we have our survival methods down pat. And then, of course, then the energy keeps going up and gets more evolved until finally, all of our chakras are just glowing with energy. But everybody has creativity within them. It may not be playing the piano for everybody. It may be making a poem or making a cake or, making a cool cosmic background like you have on your screen. But everybody has an artistic ability, and everybody on the same hand has the same with some kind of ability to tap source.
Well, I definitely want to talk in a little bit about your artwork, but you have written a couple books, but you...
4 books, more than a couple, 2 times couple.
Yeah, could you tell us about your new audiobook, Hybrid Vigor, A True Reveal of Love, which you were kind enough to send me the audio of, and unfortunately, I didn't get to listen to as much of it as I heard the thing about the porpoises. That was awesome, or the dolphins. But could you tell us about that?
Yeah, it's good you call them porpoises, because actually that's their true name rather than dolphins.
Oh, okay.
Well, Hybrid Vigor is about animals showing us who we sometimes forget we humans are animals, but we are all brothers and sisters with all animals. And so in Hybrid Vigor, I use this thrilling connection I have with the animal world and my own personal experiences to demonstrate how I've learned to be a better human being by letting the animals be my teachers and my guides. And I'll give an example, like when I call in a pod of dolphins or porpoises, just by using psychic abilities, because that's how they communicate. I mean, if they're close enough, they do it sonically, but truly, there are animals that are emanating a lot more psychic abilities than we ever have. If you ever saw the Star Trek movie, I'm a Trekkie from way back, where this big square thing came out from space and nobody could figure out what it was. The whole world was freaking out. And at the end of the movie, they were there to communicate with the whales. And it was such an ironic thing, and because the line was, or the meaning was, like, why do you humans think that you're the most intelligent things on Earth?
Yeah.
I mean, the whales were communicating. It was such a wonderful premise for fiction. And that's one of the things I love about my writing. I'm now writing my first novel that would be published. So Hybrid Vigor is nonfiction. It's true stories and my stories, not borrowed stories, not made up stories, about how animals have affected my life. And I can use them as guides and totems. And let me just explain the title. A hybrid vigor is a true biological term that's used by all biologists. And it basically means if you take remarkable specimens from the same species, like let's say a tomato plant, one tomato plant is really delicious and juicy, and the other one didn't die when we had that drought. So you cross-pollinate them and collect the seeds, and that seed will be called a hybrid vigor because it's like a combination of the same species. It becomes a subspecies, and it's better than what the two parent species were. So the idea of the book is that we humans have the ability, just by choosing, to rebirth ourselves in a higher, more conscious, more awakened state at any given moment in our life, just because we will it to be, and to lift up our consciousness. And the animals show us how.
Isn't that interesting? Because, I mean, so many of us in the world have pets, a cat or a dog usually. Heck, I have a friend who has a turtle that's like 50 years old.
A turtle is one of the stars of my book.
Yeah, and we do communicate with them. You know, my cat Maya, which means illusion in Hindi, but
right,
17 pounds of form, and she watches over me very closely. I was told she's my familiar. She came into this life to watch over me very closely. If I'm a tiniest bit out of alignment energetically, she's right there. You know, even at night, she comes up and checks on me. I might have been talking in my sleep or something, probably snoring actually, but that is a form of communication with animals.
Absolutely, yeah.
The story with those porpoises is amazing. I hope people get a chance to listen to that in your audio.
Yeah, and one of the chapters of the book is about how a dog, a stranger to me, came when I was going through some kind of emotional distress in my younger years, and just felt the vibration of my distress and entered this house. I was on the shore of Cape Cod, and entered the house that it did not know, that nobody knew it, because nobody was around me at the time, but I found out later it was a yellow lab. And it came over and rescued me, touched my hand with its little wet nose, and literally pulled me out of this deep, dark place I was falling into. In my mind, my consciousness was not where it is today. We have to choose to bring it up. And so a dog that can even be a stranger, or a cat, or a turtle, or a deer, or a bird, or hawk, anything, butterfly, you name it.
I know a lot of spiritual people, friends of mine, that are very tuned into birds. Evidently, feathers are a spiritual sign if they find feathers. I love birds too, but some people, boy, they're real magical beings to them.
Exactly. Well, the signs of magic are for us to pay attention to. They're just like a dream. I mean, if you get a symbol in your dream, when you have an important dream, like a message type dream, and you awaken and you say, I think I'm going to ponder this. And what could the symbolism be telling me? And sometimes a dream is just a mishmash of images that your brain is sorting out. But when you've had what they call a prophetic dream, a monumental message dream, it's very important to pay attention to the messages. And like a feather in the daytime that you see, like on the path before you as you walk, is just like a sign from our subconscious. It's just a sign from Maya. Maya has sent you a sign instead of your dream state.
My kids sent him a sign.
Right, this illusion, Maya is actually a term that we use a lot in the yogic tradition, describing this awakened state. How do we know that this truly is what's reality? The reality could be in our dream state, but it also could be in our meditation, or it could be after death. And so it's a very interesting thing to reflect upon, those of us who are inclined to do so.
Wow, this is awesome. I love your viewpoint and knowledge on spirit. I am going to shift gears here because I did ask you. I would love to have our listeners and viewers find out more about your art. What mediums do you work in, and can people find them online? Do you sell them or whatever?
Oh yeah, all that.
You.
And all that. I use everything, you name it. But books have been my medium for the last decade. But I'm always painting. I'm always creating. My husband and I even made a film. But my website is Teza Lord, and it's spelled TezaLord.com. And there I have galleries, and I have connections to the books. And I'm in the process of setting up my very first online Etsy store. And if anybody has any connections with good galleries, let me know. But basically, I'm going to focus on selling my work online. And I just created a beautiful studio. I call it the Tez Mahal. and it's really going to be a place of amazing creations, because the energy that you put into your environment, you get back 1,000-fold. So if you make a nice space to create some things in, your creativity will be uplifted instead of just, confining yourself to a tiny little room, which sometimes we have to do.
Was your artwork, when you were going through that transition period when you were younger, coming out of addiction, was your artwork a way to help you evolve and grow spiritually?
Well, in one of my books, I've got, like I said, I have 3 nonfiction narratives. So people should read all of them if they want to know about the spiritual journey, because it's like an incredible storytelling event of how a person comes from really the dark into the light. And so I've always been an artist. And when I finally lifted myself out of addiction and became a spiritual person who lives on what I call planet sober, no drugs or alcohol. Mm-hmm. And I love chocolate and coffee, and that's about it. But no mood altering substances. But when that day finally came, I made a ceremony, a ritual out of taking all my old angst and dark work to the dump. Mm. And I hid behind a big old refrigerator, and I watched. This was in East Hampton, New York, where there's a lot of art happenings going on. They even had a special recycling tent. And I was an assistant to a very famous artist at that time, just artists up the kazoo in East Hampton, New York. So I hid behind a refrigerator, and I watched as all the scavengers came and made off with my really incredibly weird art. But it's always been, to me, very exciting art. But I decided to not focus on dark angst, like apocalyptic stuff. And that was kind of the style, not only of my art, but of the world's, up until people started realizing that the spirit is something that we can celebrate. And so all my work since then has always been celebratory of solutions rather than focusing on the problems.
Wow, that is awesome. And I'm going to go back again to your books, because you did mention you have a book called In the Eye, that's the capital letter I, Easing Through Life's Storms, Zen Love, The True Journey of a Blended Family, and We Are One. And these books are part of what you call the Transcendent series?
Right, the 3 nonfiction. So We Are One is actually an art book, and it's a beautiful black pages with vibrant reproductions of the art printed on the black hardbound. And that's an art book. All the rest, the 3 nonfictions. And my latest book will be a novel. Now, it's interesting about novels because people say, well, fiction, come on, we got to talk about reality. But if anybody has ever read, or most people have seen, because it won the Academy Award, The Life of Pi. That's a true spiritual story. That's a story that is so overwhelming. And if you read the book, it's 10 times more spiritual than the movie. And the author of that book, Jan Martel, I wrote to because I was deeply affected by that book, as many of my friends were, because it's a story about a teenage boy, Pi, that's his nickname, and he's searching. He doesn't know if he wants to be a Muslim or a Christian or a Sufi or a Hindu, because he's a Hindu from India, and he's everything. He ends up being a little bit of everything. And the way the story is, it shows the journey of seeking. And so there's a lot of metaphors when you write fiction. So I'm very attracted to fiction stories. Like Hermann Hesse was a German novelist, and all his fiction is about the spiritual journey.
I read stuff,
all his stuff, like Siddhartha. I read Siddhartha once a year, and it's the fictionalized story of the Buddha.
Right.
It's not. It's a little bit of what he did, but a lot different than what history claims Siddhartha Gautama was into.
Yeah.
So fiction has a lot more possibilities with fiction, I think.
Yeah, it was amazing. Narcissus and Goldman, and I haven't his stuff for a long time. I'm glad you mentioned. I may have to go back and revisit
The Mark of Damien and his masterpiece, which I'm going to read soon. I got to read it soon. Magister Ludi, the bead game.
Gosh, yeah. There's another one. I haven't thought of those in years.
It's all magical stuff. So the reason I like fiction, I mean, there's lots of people writing nonfiction, how to this, how to that. Okay, we don't need another how-to book. But if we explore the possibilities which fiction allows us to, we have flights of fancy, and it's done realistically, and it's done in a storytelling fashion so that you're spellbound, and the characters are real, and they're fleshed out, they have vitality. You just really immerse yourself, and you become transformed as you're reading these stories.
Yeah. Well, I have to ask about this too. You, and I believe with Carter, your husband, you have a podcast called Z Lord. What is that about?
Well, like I said, it started just documenting our camping trip, because we thought we were going to be campers forever until the pandemic arose. We were actually on our way to South America after Christmas of 2019 when the pandemic struck. And, by March, we were all sequestered, as everybody knows. So we started the podcast because Carter's a filmmaker, and I'm all sorts of art inclined. And so it's our artistic offering to the world. So we started documenting our trip, and it's like a travelogue, because we were in a different campsite, and we talk about just funny things, chipmunks here and caves there, and explorations of crystals in the mountains there, and all that. And then we went into the inner journey. And so we don't have a guest, except one time we did have an interview 3 times of this marvelous 96-year-old Black woman who her whole life spans the beginning, the middle, and the end of, Black Renaissance. She's from Harlem, and she was the first mental health worker in Bed-Stuy. And she met all the jazz greats, and then she moved to St. Augustine and became our friend. And we're very involved with the Black community that is developing a tribute to St. Augustine, Florida. Oh, I wasn't going to plug it, but there you go. That's where I live. Is in the process of bringing to the world's attention that it was the first free Black community called Fort Mose. Fort Mose was a place that the early Spanish, said to the the slaves, if they could make their way to St. Augustine, they would have their freedom. Oh, they had to become Catholic. There's always that little loophole, right? So, okay, you become Catholic, you poor slaves, if you can make it through the swamps of Georgia. And they did live free here in St. Augustine at Fort Mose.
Wow, that is amazing. So I believe that people, if they just go to Amazon and type in your name, they should be able to access your podcast via Amazon.
Absolutely. And also I have a YouTube channel. So you have to go to YouTube and type in those 8 little letters, Teza Lord. And I have a lot of mind stillers, which are guided meditations. I actually invite people to come with me on the journey of empowering our spirit connections by stilling our busy minds through ritual. And I do this in a private Facebook group called We Are One Love, and it's spelled with we, W-E, the number one, and the letter R, and love. We are one love.
This is great. I love your energy. I love your spirit. This is great. You have so much beautiful things to offer to the world. Thank you. And I do want to ask, do you do any type of coaching or speaking or master classes or things like that in the works for you?
Well, that's probably coming, because I'm getting more and more public, and that it seems to me that that's what the public always wants. So I'm actually taking some courses myself, it's called conscious marketing. And so I'm going to be learning how to do that. I wish somebody would help me with that, but I actually have stopped waiting for somebody to help me, and I'm just going to learn how to do it myself. But for now, I have so much material out there. For instance, on my YouTube channel, I have offered a 1-hour course, per session of the chakras, exploring the chakras in yoga. So if anybody wants to see the type of yoga that I have done all my life, I've studied so many different types, and I've been certified since, I got grandfathered in because I'm one of the people that has been studying so often that we didn't have to apply for any other means except just to say, hey, here we are. And that's called grandfathered in. It's pretty funny. But I have so much material out there. People can just read the books and see my YouTube channel and stay tuned for what's coming next.
That's interesting. I really have never done very much yoga, just occasional beginner stuff, mainly to get the stretch for my running. However, a lot of information just in the last few months on the chakra system has been flowing to me. I've been at a retreat about it and reading all kinds of books and hearing more and more things. So I'm learning a lot more about it too. That's beautiful. I am looking up your video series on YouTube about the chakra.
Yeah, because each class I concentrate on a different chakra, and we raise the energy together of the awareness of what is this chakra all about, and do specific asanas, which are poses, to help understand that the consciousness is always evolving. Consciousness is always growing. It's never limited. It's just infinite in its possibilities. But to understand it is really a step-by-step process. And it's very comforting to see that there is the potential for growth. And the object, of course, is to have all the chakras energized. So everything is absolutely finally in tune with spirit, not just one.
And your body tunes in to better health and energy too once you do that.
Because our body is the temple of our spirit.
Beautiful.
And when we think of that, life is a whole different ballgame.
Ladies and gentlemen, we've been speaking to Teza Lord, a spirit activist and author, artist, video personality. I love it. And it's just great stuff. Soon to be novelist. This is wonderful, wonderful. Teza, how can people get in contact with you if they want to connect?
Well, anybody can write me, Dear Teza @gmail.com, and visit my website, tezalord.com. That'd be the best way.
Yeah, easy enough. So
yeah,
beautiful stuff. Thank you so much for what you do, Teza. And like I said, honestly, you have so much beautiful energy and life to offer us. And again, part of that awakening in the world. And Teza's right at the forefront with us. Thank you for leading the way.
You're welcome, and have me back anytime. I just love to inspire people, and love is where it's at. It's just like a weapon, we have to shoot our bullets of love into everybody's heart.
Oh, that's great. I love that. Thank you. That's a great way to end this. So thank you, Teza. Thank you. Namaste.
Namaste.
This has been another episode of World Awakenings, the fast track to enlightenment with your host, Carl Gruber, a certified Law of Attraction life coach. We welcome you to tune in each and every episode of this podcast, World Awakenings, as we open your mind, your heart, and your eyes to the fact that all the world's population is now, more than ever, awakening to the truth of all things metaphysical and spiritual, and just how they play an all-important role in our moment-to-moment everyday life. Much love and light to you, my friend. Thank you for tuning in.